Hello, and welcome back to Jack's Coffee Break. Today we are going to be talking about the Animal Pack DLCs, and we're starting off with the Arid pack. So we are looking at a sand cat right here. This is not a DLC that comes with build parts, so we're just going to go ahead and get straight into talking about the animals. So we're starting with the Arid pack, another 2024 release, I believe, or maybe late 2023. Yeah, this had to be late 2023, because we didn't get anything for this summer. Very good selection of signs. They've got this sort of more, I would say they're a little bit more watercolor, but they've still got that unified style that we've been looking for. You can see it again over here. There's this very specific look. All the signs have their own little differences that make them specific to the pack, but for the most part, this isn't going to look out of place in your zoo. You know, it's not too heavily themed, and I think that that really works because the pack itself offers a lot of area-specific animals. It's the Arid pack. For the most part, these are all going to be more African animals. In fact, I think they are 100% African animals. Your reward statue is going to be the dromedary camel, which is good. We already got signage back in the Africa pack, and now we have the dromedary. It does make me wonder whether or not the dromedary was cut from the African pack and then put into here, or if this was something that was a long-term plan and somebody got something mixed up. There's a lot of these things that we don't see, like, behind the scenes on Frontier, and so I typically don't speculate, but this one has always intrigued me. It's been a bit of a mystery for the community for a long time. Speaking of, let's look at this dromedary camel. So they've got the right height about them. They've got the one hump, they've got this very distinctive looking face. Everything about them, I think, looks good, and they're a nice counterpart to our Bactrian camels. These might be just a touch more realistic than the Bactrian camels, and that's simply because, you know, there's 4 or 5 years of difference between these two models. Overall, I really like them. If we can get some animations in here. Yep, they've got that snarl. Really nice walking animation. Very good. Next up, let's look at our other donkey for the game. So, for the sake of YouTube not understanding how language works, this is the Somali wild donkey. Donkey. Okay, everybody? Alright. You can see this insane grimace that I managed to catch in real time. Let's move that on. There we go. Overall, very good. They've got the distinctive patternings on their legs. They've got this very short, smooth coat, which is interesting. It's maybe, like, I don't know if this is too smooth or not. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of texture to this. If you get up really close, you can start to see the fuzz, but for the most part, there's really nothing there. Very good equid, but Frontier has always done really well with their equids. I'm not surprised. It can be really easy to mess up, like especially the horse faces and the legs. They did great. So moving on to our other big animal of the pack, we have the black rhinoceros. And these guys look really, really good. Like surprisingly good. And these also have kind of a special place in my heart. The zoo that is nearby, where my grandparents lived when I was growing up, they had black rhinoceroses that they were helping to, basically they were breeding them in order to reestablish the wild population, which apparently is now much more stable, at least. So that's really cool. It was really nice to get to see conservation efforts in action, you know, at a really young age. The model itself looks really, really good. They've got the distinct ribs, they've got that tankiness, the horns look good, the coloration is very good. They're not necessarily actually black, but they're a very dark gray compared to some of our other rhinos, and I think that's where they get the name. So we've got the 3 different versions right here. So this one is a light gray thick skin, a gray thick skin, and a dark gray. Now, can I tell the differences? Barely. Barely I can tell the differences. For the most part, looking at it from the distance, I would think that these were the same creature. But whatever. Again, they look good. And their animations are pretty solid as well. There's always going to be a little bit of that pathfinding jank. But for the most part, like, their walking animation is very nice. Very slow and steady. Oh, he's going on a charge. Alrighty, so this is the Addax. So we've got a male and a female version. So here's the male, sort of on his own. Distinctive face shape, really good texture on these horns. Kind of small, like surprisingly small. And then here is the female who, unless I'm mistaken, no, this is not the Addax. This is the dama gazelle. They look like they could be part and parcel with each other, but they're not. So this is going to be our male dama gazelle. Again, really nice distinctive horns. Over here, I believe, is our female. She's a little bit thinner, finer, kind of. The horns, I believe, are just a little bit different. I believe they're thinner. And that's really what's making the difference there. And then you are our female Addax. Really not a lot of differences between the males and the females. The horns are a different shape. Just slightly. But that's really it. Very good. No complaints here. Yeah. Frontier always does great on their host stock. Alright, next let's talk about our Porcupine. I was really wondering how they were going to pull this off, but they managed to do these quills justice, I think. There's a lot of them. They've got the right size, structure, the roundness. I was worried that they were going to have to do sort of basically like a thin, like, sheet plate kind of texture. But no, they actually managed to get the detail proper. They've got the face. Everything about them looks really good. I don't think this one's going to stand up and move for us. We're just going to have everything sort of trample on top of us. Oh, there we go. We can get some movement. Very expressive. You can see this kind of skirt thing that goes on. And it is a little bit sheeted, but I think that the effect works really nicely. So, if you like these sort of small, distinctive mammals, you know, like the badger, anything like that, I think that you're really going to enjoy this. Now let's move on to our only predator. Our only carnivore in the entire pack is the sand cat, who was around in this corner and then moved. Ah, here we go. They have insane faces. Really wide, weird-looking, insane faces. And then the tiny little pobs. But considering where Frontier started off with their cats, and having the giant, like, all two giant paws, I think that this looks really, really good. Their faces are just gonna be a little bit weird. They've got the pose down, thankfully. Let's see if we can find one who's walking around. Here we go. And we are just a little bit fish-eyed because of the framing. Yeah. Can't get much lower than this, can I? Let's go into free look. There we go. Distinctive wide face, really good markings. So this is our only predator in the entire pack. But I think that it's a good one. This is a cat that is close enough to a domesticated house cat that if you want to build for domestic house cats, you can substitute this guy. I love them. I think that they're very good. I have a lot of build plans for them, but all of them presume that they are house cats and not sand cats. So what do I think of this pack? There's, as far as the actual models go, as far as the texture work and the selection, these are really good representations of these animals. Each one has a different story, and I think that it's important, again, kind of like the conservation pack, that we tell these stories. At the same time, there's going to be a group of people who are very excited about, like, the dromedary camel and the rhino and maybe the sandcat, but there's a lot of hoof stock in here as well. You know, the Addaxes are distinctive, they're special, but hoof stock just never sell a pack. You know, for the most part, they don't sell a pack. They're interesting, they're good filler, we do need them for our massive African savanna groupings, but the criticism of the time, and I do think that it maintains, is that for being the arid pack, this focuses entirely on African and West Asian animals, you know? It does not focus on the Akatama Desert or the Mojave Desert, you know, or the Gobi Desert, really. There were so many arid places in the world that they could have chosen for representation, and they didn't. And so I think that that's always going to be a community gripe. Now, as for the utility of these animals specifically, it really depends on what you build. You know, if you like to build African zoos, this is a must-have, because this is a huge selection of your African animals. If you like hoofstock, if you're in that, you know, handful of people, this is a great pack. If you love small cats, then it might be worth it just to get the sand cat. You know, we are fixing to get the palace cat, as we presumably just looked at, but if you want something that actually looks closer to something that's domesticated, this is probably going to be your better choice. You know, so it's really, if you specifically love these animals, or they have a specific place in your zoo, you know, I think that this can be a good pack. But if you don't, this honestly might be a miss. And I don't say that very often, but there's not a lot in here that can't be represented somewhere else, besides the sandcat, who really is the most distinctive part of this entire pack. But anyway, I think that just about covers it for everything you need to know about the Arid Pack DLC. Definitely an odd one in terms of community reception, but I think it's got a pretty decent selection of animals. Anyway, next episode we are going to be looking at another animal pack, so hope you will join us for that. Stay safe, have fun, and happy building.